So for today, we are still working with rational numbers. We're still going to have to order them, so we'll get more practice with that. But one of the things we also have to be able to do is place them correctly on a number line or be able to identify where they would be on a number line, which still kind of has to do with ordering. You know, if you have to put it in the right spot, it's got to follow the right order. So you'll sometimes see problems that look kind of like this. Which point on the number line best represents the location of negative 0.4? Couple things to always look at. First thing, it's asking about a negative number. Since it's asking about a negative number, which two answers can we eliminate? S and T. S and T are on the right side of 0. That makes them positive numbers. Our negative numbers are to the left of 0 on the horizontal number line. Now, the other part of it is, we look at that number. That is not a whole number, is it? When you look at the answer choices that remain, Q and R, Q is at negative 4. That is a whole number. There's no decimal point in front of that 4. So that kind of eliminates Q. All that's left is R, and if you look at R, R is about halfway between 0 and 1, maybe a little bit closer to 0. That's exactly where 0.4 should be, right? Halfway between 0 and 1, a little bit closer to 0. And in this case, since it's a negative, on the negative side of the number line. Any questions on that? You just think your way through these problems. It's not something that should be too challenging, or hopefully won't be. The other thing you sometimes have to be able to do is identify what number it should be on the number line. So in this case, we got point F. Point F is somewhere between 0 and 1. So we have to know either with a fraction or a decimal what that's going to be. They won't always have whole numbers. They'll be like a rational number. I said the fraction or decimal. So what you want to do for a problem like this is you are going to count the sections. All right, so I wouldn't count the actual lines because sometimes that gets confusing and a lot of times you all leave off one of the lines. So if you count the spaces between the little lines. So we got 1, 2, 3, I don't know why that switched, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 little sections. If I were to make that a fraction, the number of sections is going to be my denominator. The numerator is how many sections from left to right to get to the point we're talking about. So from point F, that was 1, 2, 3 sections. So that makes my numerator 3. So point F is located at 3/10. If it were decimal answer choices, 3/10 is, 3/10, 0.3. It would work the same way with negative numbers. You just have to think about how you would count as you move towards the left instead of towards the right. Or if instead of, let's say instead of 0 and 1, it was 4 and 5. If it was 4 and 5, that means F is 3/10 of the way past 4. So it'd be 4 and 3/10 or 4.3. That part make sense? All right, go ahead and give this one a try. This one instead has a vertical number line, so that sometimes makes it a little bit more challenging, especially with the negatives. looking for the point on the vertical number line that represents the location of -3/2, or -3/2. So who's got an answer for this one? Alyssa? Not quite I. Alana? J. J is going to be our correct one. So like we said before, we've got a negative, okay? We can eliminate any of the positive values. So H and G are positive. That's not going to be our right answer. So now we have to figure out whether it's I, J, or K. There are a few things you can do. If it makes it easier for you, you can change it to a decimal or a mixed number. -3/2 is the same as -1.5, which is the same thing as -1.5. All right, so any of those three ways could potentially help you to figure out which one it is. The other thing that can be helpful with negative numbers especially is think of it as the positive value. So if I had a +1.5, it would be between 1 and 2, right? +1.5 is halfway between 1 and 2. What that means is the opposite is true, because that's what this negative sign is really saying, is it's the opposite of 1.5. So that means our answer has to be between -1 and -2. The answer then makes that J. J is the one between -1 and -2. Any questions on that one? So the other thing you sometimes have to look at is how close it is to a number. All right, so this is asking us which point is -1.25. So it's a negative. Which answer can I eliminate right away? D. D is a positive number. All right, so if it's -1.25, again, like I said before, we think of it as the positive value. 1.25 is between which two numbers? If it was +1.25, which two numbers would it be in between? 1 and 2. So for -1.25, it's going to be between -1 and -2. Okay. There's -1, there's -2. That just eliminates C. Now we just kind of look at our decimal. 1.25. Is that closer to 1 or closer to 2? Closer to 1. Answer choice A is about halfway. Answer choice B is closer to 1, and that's what we're looking for. So you just kind of pay attention to where the decimal is located in relationship to the whole numbers. If it's closer to 1, it's going to be the dot that's closer to that number. If it's something 0.5, it's going to be halfway, right? And if it's closer to the higher number, it'll be 6 and up. Okay?